Good afternoon. We are live, and I've got a cracking song here. And if I just press that, we want to see what the song is. I love this song. It's all about the guest, not the song. So I'm going to cut it short. You say you wander your own life. When you think about it, I don't see how you can. So little time, I don't understand that I'm trying to make a move just to stay in the game. I try to stay awake and remember my name, and everybody's changing and I don't feel the same. There we go. I did say that was a quick song. There he is.
Good.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mark Williams. How the devil are you, sir?
Oh, fantastic! Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's even greater for you to be here.
I'm very jealous of your talent. I wish I could do that.
Look, so I started off playing the guitar years and years and years ago because I've been in bands and it's so difficult. And I've just persevered, just a little bit every day. So anybody can play. It really isn't that difficult if I can get away with it. But yeah, everybody's changing by Keen. Why did you choose that song?
Well, actually, funny enough, the list that you gave me, which I presume is all the songs that you know you can play, there's quite a lot I could have picked actually, and it's going to sound a little bit cheesy this, but there is some relevance to that song in terms of my background. If you think back to, that was 2004 that came out, and it was a brilliant album, and I mean, a bit of a one-hit album, Keen, really, but I loved that album, and I listened to it time and time again. And at that time, I was running a recruitment business, and I was traveling to London a lot, sat on the train, listening to that in my headphones. I just thought it was a fantastic album. But also, it was a time of change, which is the cheesy bit. But it was actually, because things were really starting to change in terms of the way we were operating as an organization. The industry was operating, particularly in recruitment, because LinkedIn, which had started in 2003, of course, was starting to have an impact. And I'd been in the industry many, many years, very experienced about the way things used to work, and was challenged by this new world that we were entering, where social media was starting to play a part, and particularly LinkedIn. So that's way before I got involved in LinkedIn training, but I was starting to think about that and deal with that challenge that change gives us, that uncomfortable but exciting, but you know, I've always known a certain way of doing things, and now I have to change. So that was kind of why I thought it was a relevant choice.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. And look, you've actually put some thought into the song choice, so thank you so much for that. And I'm now thinking I need to listen to that album again. I've got one of these streaming devices, so in the morning when I'm doing my work, I will put that on. So
it's I'm actually seeing them live next year. I was supposed to see them this year, but it got put back because of COVID. But they're doing like the Forest concert tour, and there's one relatively near to where I live, so I'm going to be seeing them live for the first time. I've never seen them live before.
Ah, fantastic. It's nice to get back to live music, and obviously I play live. And the first gig I did with the band, it was just electric, and it was probably the first gig that many people went to. So we had crowd surfers, and I've never had that at the gig before. So that was awesome. That was awesome. Anyway, I wonder if you see crowd surfing at a Keen concert. That would be interesting.
Maybe.
We've already got questions coming in. Hi, Odessa. How do you make your live video visible on your profile page? It just happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just automatic. So yeah. Hi, Mikhail, and hi, James. Nice to see you. If anyone's got any questions for either of us, because we both know a little bit about LinkedIn, so that's great. I don't know if you can see my smile, but I'm so excited that you're on today, Mark. I've been listening to your podcast forever. And when you move house or you go on holiday, I don't get a podcast, so I go back and listen to the old stuff, and it's just brilliant. You say exactly what you're thinking, exactly what many other people are thinking, and you know, it's purely honest and it's authentic, and that is what LinkedIn is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, experience. I've done a lot of podcasts now. Experience allows you to be more confident about doing less editing, frankly. In the early days, I used to literally go, oh, I don't like the sound of that, and re-record it and da-da-da, but you realize in time that what people want to hear and what people want to read in content or consuming content generally is the real thing, is, who you really are. And I think the podcast for me has allowed me to become more authentic. I think when I'm restricted by written content, I find that harder, although I think I'm better at it now. But largely because of the podcast, it's just allowed me that opportunity. I literally sit in front of this microphone and just blabber on for about an hour, and that's it.
And that's what we love. That's what we love. I got James Twigger watching today. He's a fellow podcaster, and he does a book review with a couple of mates, and it's three dads and a business book, and it's hilarious because they are just being them.
Yeah,
which is
I'll
great.
have to listen to that. I've not heard that.
It's really good. And look, and when we finished, Mark, if you can put your podcast details in this so that everybody can find it, because I promise you guys, this guy knows an awful lot, and they're great podcast. Anyway, I want to know how long you've actually been on LinkedIn. You intimated that it was 2003, but you said you didn't go on straight away.
No. So LinkedIn started in 2003. It's funny, actually, if I went back and checked on LinkedIn, I think it says 2007, but I know I started before that. But I stopped my account. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just literally blasted out there and invited all kinds of people, and I just thought, oh, do you know what, I'm doing this all wrong, and so I just got rid of that account and started again with a different email address. So my date in my LinkedIn settings is incorrect, but that says June 2007. I would guess it was probably about 2 years before that, something like that, because that's when, as I say, around that time I was starting to, other people were using it in the business. I was running a recruitment business and people were using it in the business, but I wasn't using it, and I was worried that they'd be wasting their time and messing around. To me, social media was a bit of a laugh, and people do it for social reasons. It's not a business thing. It's not a serious work thing. It's not something that's going to make you more productive. That's very much where I was coming from. So yeah, officially 2007, but actually it was a bit before that.
And at that time, did you think, oh, do you know, one day I might be Mr. LinkedIn and train people and have a podcast? And in fact, what's a podcast?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely no idea at all. But because you go back to when I started LinkedIn training was 2008. And there wasn't anybody doing LinkedIn training then at all. There were a few in the States, to be fair, but there was maybe a handful of people across the world. And there was nobody in the UK whatsoever. And so it was a completely new idea. And that's an interesting thing in itself, because when you do that, it's exciting, but it's also very difficult because everybody basically tells you you're being stupid and you're wasting your time. And there's a story you'll see in my profile in my about section, and I won't go through the whole thing now, but basically some guy just, when I told him what I did, he just laughed out loud at the networking event. And everybody in the room kind of turned around to go, what's he laughing at? And that was a very typical response that I used to get. People used to say, why do you need training on social media? So that's ridiculous.
Well, so someone will answer that as well. It's got Craig. Do you know Craig?
Yeah.
Or Dino, as he likes to be called.
I've heard of him. Yeah, I don't know him well, but yeah.
Nice chap. So yeah, there's a lot of LinkedIn trainers and gurus and goodness knows what out there, but there's plenty of room. There's 800 million people on the platform, so I think we're all gonna have a bit of space, and we're all different and stuff like that. So there you go. Do you use other social media?
Depends what you mean by use. I consume other social media, but
you're
I don't
you're
really
a TikTok fan, aren't you?
Use them. I love TikTok. Probably spent, and that's just a release for me. Really, it's like a entertainment channel for me. I guess the worky bit of TikTok for me is it's very innovative platform, and not so much the platform, but the people on the platform. And it's really interesting to see what people are doing there. And I think a lot of those ideas we can bring to LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn think that as well, by the way. I think LinkedIn as a company are more influenced by TikTok than they have been by any other platform since the early days of Facebook. So I love TikTok for that reason. I just find it entertaining. I also like Instagram as well. I post on Instagram. I don't post on TikTok. I just watch it. But I do post on Instagram as well, but not business related, purely personal stuff.
Yeah, sure. A bit like me turning on Netflix or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, cool. How often do you post on LinkedIn then?
How often do I post?
Yeah.
It's probably once to twice a week. I used to be a solid 2 to 3, and I've kind of dropped that a bit to 1 to 2 now. So some weeks it'll be 3 or 4. You know, I'm not one of those people. I don't believe in the mantra that says you need consistency. Not because I don't think consistency works. It clearly does, and there are lots of reasons why consistency is good. But I think there's also a downside to this. I think it's how literal you take it. But when you talk about being consistent with your posting, a lot of people take it too literally for me. So they go, it's a Monday afternoon, or sorry, it's a Monday morning at 11 o'clock. I now need to post, right? That is not healthy, because what happens is that you start to push out content because it's the time to push out content. And that's never good content. So I think you've got to find the balance there. But no, I think, someone once said to me, if you post every day, you'll get better because you're just practicing more and you're learning more from your audience. And that's absolutely right. But equally, don't put yourself under pressure to post every day. That we don't need that kind of pressure, right? That's not helpful to anyone. So it's finding the right balance. But for me, once to twice a week.
Yeah, no, I like that. But with all due respect, you're pretty well known on LinkedIn, so you don't need to be putting yourself out there so much, do you? So, and I guess you get an awful lot of business from your podcast, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, how business comes to you is always a bit of a mystery. Not just to you, but also to the people that are coming to you with business. People don't always know, do they? It's just the kind of environment that we live in, particularly with LinkedIn and things like a podcast. People follow you, get to know you, feel like they understand more about you, and then at some stage decide they want to do business with you. Can they identify exactly where they first heard of you? Probably not. And it doesn't really matter. That's the point of visibility. I'm not hugely analytical in that. I need to know precisely how you came to me in the first place, right? Because I know that's probably an unrealistic question these days. But the point is you do, and that's about being visible in places that your audience are going to be, and consistently, there's that word, showing up. And so long as you do that and you provide content that's authentic and original, then people are going to buy into you. Not everyone, and that's okay. And then eventually they'll decide they want to do business with you. So that to me is the way it works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a little bit of a conversation going on about TikTok over there. I'll leave them to it. But Mikhail's got a great question: how to boost your LinkedIn appearance? There's loads of ways you can do that. What do you mean by appearance, Mikhail? But Mark, I'm sure you've got something to say here.
Well, I'll interpret that as visibility, and the best way to boost your visibility is through engagement and content. And obvious point, I suppose, but it's not just about content. And people make the mistake of thinking, if I post and people see it and people engage with it, then I'm going to get more visible. Well, of course, that's true. But if you don't engage with other people's content, that's much less likely to happen. So it's about getting involved and participating. Understand it to be a room of people, and don't stand in the corner shouting and hoping that people hear you. Join in conversations, and the more of that you do, the more chance it is that people are going to want to hear what you've got to say. So it's really simple. Just get out there, be active. There's lots of other stuff to it. Of course, there's techniques around posting. There's different types of posts. There's right and wrong things to do. There's things about the algorithm that we need to understand. But essentially, if it was to come down to one simple thing, it would be about getting out there, being active, engaging and posting.
And it sounds like you've been on one of my workshops, because that's what I say to everybody. Just think about it like a networking event. And if you go to a networking event, those people that do well at networking events are those that are working the room. They're going around and chatting to everybody, leaving their business card or whatever. So Craig knows exactly, or Dino knows exactly the same thing. Comments are content after all. And that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think also the thing about comments is that comments give insight into what you think, right? And sometimes content does, and it may well be that you're being very authentic, but often with content, with posts, people can view it as a well, you're putting that out there, so you're projecting an image. Right? I think when someone reads a comment, they naturally, without really thinking about it, but they believe it more. You know, it seems more authentic just naturally because it's a comment. Now, I always say to people, look, if you're commenting, your followers, certainly those that have high relevance to you, are going to see that post and your comments underneath it. And that allows them to learn more about you. And that's what this is all about. Yes, they're aware of you. Yes, you're visible. But the point where you convert someone from knowing about you, to wanting to do business with you, is through the knowledge that they gain about you, the understanding that they feel closer to you. And that is largely achieved through commenting.
I was my mate works in a solicitor's office down in town, and he was saying that one of the staff that he works with saw me in the street and nearly turned around and go, "Hi, Ash." Realizing that I didn't know her. It's just because she's become familiar with me from seeing me on LinkedIn, which is just absolutely bizarre. So we're really running out of time already. I hope you're all right for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, just on that point, you reminded me of a story that I have recounted on the podcast before now. But I once got a piece of quite a large client, actually. It was a really tasty piece of business. And this guy contacted me and said, I've been recommended by, and he named the person. And he said, you know, And he made it sound like this guy knows me really well. And he definitely doesn't, right? And I was saying to my partner in the car, I was saying, you know, I've got this piece of business, but I feel a bit disingenuous about it because this guy thinks he knows me, and I don't think he does. I think he's maybe confusing me with someone else, but what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to turn around and say, it doesn't mean me, he must mean Ashley. And she said, no, that's not how it works, though, is it? And it was embarrassing that that this had to be pointed out to me. Said, this could be someone that listens to the podcast who feels they know you, or follows your content on LinkedIn that feels they know you. And they do know you, don't they? Just because you don't know them, that's not how it works, is it?
No,
of course, that's true. You know, there's lots of people out there that get to know you. That you're doing it well if they do. Doesn't mean you know them, of course.
I don't know if you've ever met a celebrity and you sort of like, oh, hi. And you sort of like, I know you because I watch you on telly all the time. And then it's sort of like looking at you as if, oh, I don't know you. Dino, that's a great point. One of the biggest things, and you probably get this yourself, Mark, is people don't know what to post, or they're scared or whatever. And by commenting, they get used to doing it. And then it's getting you outside your comfort zone, isn't it? And it's quite easy to write a few words on a post as a comment rather than trying to come up with something amazingly clever or whatever.
Easier. But a lot of people struggle with that as well. Because it's putting yourself out there, isn't it? So you can start with some simple stuff and just a little bit of basic engagement, and then gradually build in a little bit more of you as you build your confidence. Commenting is definitely the right place to start because that is definitely easier than posting. And also by doing so, by really studying your feed or studying people's feeds and engaging with them, you start to get a real feel for the audience and what people want to talk about and what people find interesting, which obviously helps you with your content as well. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's ever easy because, you know, a lot of people out there are really worried about putting themselves out there. You know, they find that difficult, and whether that's commenting or posting, it's just difficult, full stop. And that's a challenge for them. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I find a lot of the time in the work that we do, a lot of it is psychology, really. It's about helping people to overcome that barrier, to feel brave about getting out there and just being a bit more visible.
Yeah. No, I did a course on neuroscience a while back, and I bring that into my coaching because it like you say, it is weird. It is psychological. So yeah, no, cool. So last question on my questions, and then I want to talk a little bit about you. But do you ever get business from LinkedIn?
Well, as I said before, it's often difficult to identify, but my main source of visibility is LinkedIn and the podcast. And so the most common business I get is either repeat or referred business. And obviously that originated from LinkedIn or from the podcast at some stage. So yeah, I mean, I get contacts all the time through LinkedIn, contacted by people through LinkedIn all the time. But I've been doing this a long time, 13 years now. So you can imagine, the vast majority of people that inquire are people that I've worked with previously. They might have moved to a different company, but people that I've worked with previously.
So everyone knows what you do, but quickly in a little, what do you do, Mark?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I work with people to help them be more visible on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to summarize what I do. People or companies or teams of people, but essentially I help people become more visible on LinkedIn.
No, absolutely. And you're definitely doing that. And so what type of customers do you work with?
Really, literally all kinds, from small one-man bands right through to multinational organizations. So, and I enjoy all of the different types of organizations and people that I deal with, different sorts of characters in different sorts of roles, marketing people, sales people, recruiters, job seekers, right across the board. I enjoy that variety about what I do. LinkedIn is LinkedIn. The platform is what it is, and the opportunity to be visible is the same for everyone, but everyone's got different objectives, and I quite enjoy that variety.
No, fantastic. What challenges do you have at the moment within your business?
I think probably the biggest challenge for me is trying to manage my time to fit everything in. And that sounds really like a really basic one that I think most people find in most jobs, really. But I do find that challenging. And I was saying, before when you were asking about posting 1 to 2 times a week, sometimes I think, I probably should post more, but it's really difficult. I remember when Clubhouse was a big thing, maybe it still is for some people, but I kind of toyed with it initially, and then I just thought, I just haven't got time for this stuff. I just can't fit that in. And I know that's a challenge to most of my customers as well. They're like doing other stuff. And then I'm saying you should be doing more on LinkedIn. Like, well, how would I find time for that? I think we all find that a challenge. It's about prioritization, all the rest of it. And I know all of that, but I don't, the bottom line is no matter how experienced you are, that is always a challenge, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And I love that answer. Look, talking of time and challenge and goodness knows what else, we've gone way over our 50 minutes and it wouldn't have been difficult. Thank you so much. I've got one more question for you. I just want to quickly give a shout out to what's going on next week. So I don't know if you know this lady, but I seem to have, it's like buses.
Yeah.
One minute you don't get any, and then 2 come along at once. So I've got the lovely Louise Brogan coming on, so I'm looking forward to meeting her as well. You've been absolutely wonderful, Mark. Thank you for coming on. Finally, what tip would you give your 16-year-old self?
Yeah, I mean, this is how do I answer this one quickly? I've thought about this a lot. LinkedIn used to do a thing about this, something that it was 21-year-old rather than a 16-year-old. I think I would say, look, use in your career, from a career perspective, use employment and working for other people as a means to an end, right? So what you're trying to do is get to a position where you can be your own boss. Because when I did that, I've never been happier and more fulfilled than I have in working for myself. But I think that's unrealistic to do that right off the bat. Maybe not for some people, but understand that when you're working for someone else, you're doing so because you're trying to gain knowledge and experience from them to then use to your own benefit later on in your career. Don't be a slave to an organization, right? That's how things used to be. Be an individual and take what you can from your employment with organizations and then use that to run your own business. That's what I would say to my 16-year-old self, because I definitely didn't understand that at all.
No, neither did I. Thank you for that. That is priceless. That is priceless. What a way to end a show. So, Mark, thank you so much. Really lovely to meet you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you to everybody for all your lovely comments and all your questions and stuff. And I will be back next week or tomorrow for the other show that I do for accountants and bookkeepers. Mark, thank you very much indeed. Cheer, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.